I went to art school, so I didn't go to business school. So we're learning a lot how to run the business more efficiently and not just be, hey, let's put out a cool T-shirt kind of thing. It's become more than that, and having getting married, having two kids during this whole business has put a different perspective on things. So it's more than cool T-shirts. It's about creating good livelihoods, not only for myself, my wife, and my family, but to the greater Cleveland clothing family that we have.
Let's discover the Cleveland entrepreneurial ecosystem. We are telling the stories of its entrepreneurs and those supporting them. Welcome to the Lay of the Land podcast, where we are exploring what people are building in Cleveland. I am your host, Jeffrey Stern, and today I had the pleasure of speaking with Michael Kubinski, the founder and owner of Cleveland Clothing Company. From printing tees in a basement to the best of Cleveland, Cleveland Clothing Company has been spreading Cleveland pride one t-shirt at a time since 2008. They are independent, local, and family-owned, a one-stop shop for Cleveland-themed graphic tees, apparel, accessories, gifts, and more. Founded by two lifelong friends, one a graphic designer who had always dreamed of starting a t-shirt company, and the other an entrepreneur who was looking for a fun new opportunity. One fateful night over some beers, chili, and burgers at one of their favorite spots, Whitney's in Richfield, Ohio, they decided to put their money where their mouth was and come up with a plan. They purchased a screen printing press, some blank t-shirts, and got to work on a couple of designs. And Cleveland Clothing Company was born. They started a website and used social media to get the word out and spent $50 on business cards, which they left around local businesses. Word began to spread, and the company was literally spreading Cleveland pride one t-shirt at a time as the guys screened and shipped the shirts themselves. And the rest is somewhat history, as they say, history which we will cover in our conversation today. So please enjoy my conversation with Michael Kubinski. Cleveland Clothing Company is, I feel like, one of the strongest pro-Cleveland brands I've come across. There's a real, staple presence right in the heart of downtown. Did you always have this vision of championing the city and the brand of Cleveland? Would love to learn more about, how you came to start this company and where that inspiration kind of stemmed from.
I mean, well, I think growing up in Cleveland, you learn to love it, and as you say, like, was it my dream all the time? Like, not when I was 5 years old. No, I wanted to play sports or be, something else. But I'm, as I grew up and went off to college, I went to Ohio Wesleyan, studied fine art, and eventually ended up becoming a graphic designer. But in prior or after graduation, did the normal trying to find myself kind of thing, and worked in retail and got into retail management. So I worked for, learned the ropes of running a store and kind of like a business, and then went back to school to be a graphic designer. So once I graduated again for being a graphic designer, I got a job locally for a consumer goods brand. And if you guys have ever used like Gugon, I designed packaging labels for the brand Gugon, amongst other brands that may not be as notable as that. But that's where this story kind of all starts. So I was hired on for that company, and I was the lowly junior designer, and I was relegated to the backs of the packaging, backs of the bottles. So a lot of black and white work, not very creative. And I just kind of needed a creative outlet, if you will. And I always wanted to learn how to screen print. So I had some extra cash in my pocket and thought that I would I would purchase a screen printing press, some screens and t-shirts, and learn how to screen print. And from there, I was like, how do I make something cool out of this? I was in Akron at the time, or knew about the company Rubber City Clothing, and they basically do what we do here in Cleveland, or Cleveland Clothing for Akron. And at the time in 2008, I looked at Cleveland, and I didn't really see anything there that was on the positive and pride aspect of Cleveland. And I saw basically kind of a hole, and I was like, why don't we make Cleveland pride t-shirts, kind of like what they're doing at Rubber City? So I came up with some designs. This is 2008, so MySpace was cool. I started a CLE Clothing MySpace page, had my friends friend it, and then have their friends, and so on and so forth. And it just kind of grew from a creative outlet and a hobby at the time.
Wow. So it's kind of a real grassroots initiative at the onset.
Yeah, everything was super organic. I put the designs up, and people would like it or whatever, and then we built a website. And luckily, I didn't have to have much knowledge. Apps and other websites were trying to do this entrepreneurial spirit. So there's a company called Big Cartel, which is just an online shopping cart, and you could just build your website around that, and it was super easy to get businesses off the ground. So we started a Big Cartel site and put our designs up, and everything was really pre-order. So we would take orders over 2 weeks and then have a screen printing party. And it was in my friend's basement. He had a house at the time. So I would go over every 2 weeks, buy our supplies and have a screen printing party and print everyone's shirts and then ship them out the next day. And so, as our tagline is spreading Cleveland pride, one t-shirt at a time, we were literally doing that in 2008.
Wow. And then at that point, when you're having these screen printing parties in your friend's basement, did you have a vision for what it looks a little bit more like today with the whole retail presence across, a whole geography of Cleveland and greater Cleveland? Or how are you thinking about it at that point?
At that time, I was just having fun, and I was having fun making something cool that people wanted. Wasn't really thinking about the future or anything. I still wanted to pursue graphic design career and become an art director, creative director, and things like that. Yeah, it didn't come till much later that when we actually it was only a year and a half later when we opened our first store, and then. Just so we could get out of the basement and my friend's office, actually.
So in that journey, at what point, because you mentioned it was just, a year and change later, at what point do you think all right, maybe we take this a little bit more seriously than just the fun that we're having here?
So we did the first year in 2008, we did a couple festivals. We did a holiday, I guess it was a festival, a holiday bazaar. So the Cleveland Bazaar, which still exists. I think they still have events at Market Square outside of Ohio City, and then a holiday market. For sure. So we did their holiday market that year, and we printed about 300 shirts and sold probably almost 2/3 of that the first day. We kind of knew that we were onto something. And I say I was my friend who was in the basement helped me out. So or who had the basement helped me out. So we knew we were onto something, but I still wanted it just to be a fun hobby, and we weren't making money. We're paying ourselves. We were just everything that we made went back into the business to make more cool T-shirts. Basically, I just wanted to make something cool. And so the next following year, we actually opened up a cart or a kiosk cart at South Park Mall, and actually had 9 employees during the holidays. And that's where it kind of got a little more serious, I guess. We weren't really involved on the day-to-day. We just had a point person there that used to work in retail, and she managed everything for us. And we were just managing the stocking and getting the inventory in there. But that kind of took off, and we did some more some festivals during the summertime, and we were at the Waterloo Arts Festival, and we saw a vacant storefront across from our tent, and we were we just asked kind of the neighborhood, what's the lease on that? What's the rent look like there? And to our surprise, it was really cheap. And so currently we're storing all of our stuff at my friend's office, and his boss kind of wanted everything out of there as quickly as possible. So we had an employee, and we had now a place to store all of our online stuff, and also then at the same time have a storefront. That storefront was called Native Cleveland. So we kind of invented a boutique, or just a little, local shop to house CLE clothing, but also people we met along the way at all these markets and festivals. So we kind of wanted to hide our brand to make it more real, I guess. or whatever. What's the right word? More relevant, I guess, instead of just opening up a Cleveland clothing store. So, and then also have other, be able to support other local entrepreneurs just like ourselves to have in that store. And then, maybe just a year later after that, the developers of East 4th Street had been walking down, looking at Waterloo, and they found our shop and they contacted us to come up with a concept for East 4th Street. And that's kind of how the story starts and it gets more serious.
Yeah. Oh, that's an incredible journey. So it's really all just, it feels like the way it's just a kind of a natural progression of the business over time, and just people kept kind of tuning in to what you guys were putting out, and just kind of organically grew with the brand.
Yeah, my intention was not to force anything, because, you never know what can happen if we didn't want to invest too much into it. And, all of a sudden, we're in too deep and it doesn't work. So when it happened, it just happened naturally, and we didn't force it. And it just, it kind of was all good. And, don't want to say lucky, but lucky,
Yeah. Well, I think in a lot of ways, and we can talk a little bit about this, but it was kind of filling this void that you mentioned of like Cleveland pride, and right. Cause you imagine, perhaps there was some stuff already available maybe on the other side of the spectrum, but there's this idea of, right, like really, defending Cleveland and having pride in the city. And I think your brand really celebrates that. But yeah, I'd love to just get your perspective on, Cleveland's own self-perception and the brand, and just kind of the energy that you were bringing to the city.
Yeah. Cleveland is a very, very proud town, and we like to show that pride. We defend Cleveland as much as we can. We don't like being the butt of the joke, but we also have a great sense of humor, and we can make fun of ourselves. And we kind of took all of that and put it inside of our brand. So we do have designs that, crack a joke or kind of have a campy humor, our Burning River Surf Club or Dead Man's Curves, things like that. And we use that, and, it's turned out really well. People identify with it, and it creates conversation. It's just been a cool journey so far.
Yeah, no, because you guys really do now have this strong presence downtown, and it's just kind of part of I feel like the scaffolding of East 4th and of downtown Cleveland.
Yeah, we kind of pride ourselves as the unofficial gift shop, but we are the gift shop. Right. Especially being next to the visitor center. So we get locals and tourists alike. And, my wife, who also works for the company, was working at the downtown store one summer, and she's like, I think I heard 5 different languages today. So that was a pretty cool thing to see. People visiting from all over the world coming to Cleveland.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So what is from your perspective as a designer, what is the whole approach to, the actual design process? What does that look like?
When we started out, it was just looking at the history and, and like trends and, sports. Cleveland is a big sports town. So like, we can't deny that we have, we do sports shirts, and that's, been a big driver to our brand. But we like to look at, Cleveland as a whole, and, it's gritty, it's rock and roll, it's a whole bunch of things, from the orchestra, the art museums, to the restaurants, etc. And we look at all of that, and, we pride ourselves as a brand that we're not going to sell sports shirts. We can do designs for anything, and they're going to be welcomed and well liked.
I'm just curious, have you like experimented with certain items, clothing, apparel, otherwise that haven't worked out?
Yes, but I'm trying to remember, like, I try to push those out of my mind, so it's really tough to.
I imagine you would.
Why is this not selling? Yeah, it's not coming to me right now. I'm sure I could figure something out, but a lot of stuff does work, but sometimes it just doesn't. Getting too vague. You can't just put Cleveland on anything.
That's not sufficient. It's
Yeah,
necessary,
and
but
we like to be creative and add like a little, how they put Easter eggs in movies and things like that. Like we like to put different things within our designs. And if it becomes too plain, then it's just too plain and it doesn't work. And Cleveland definitely notices that. Like our first vacation in Cleveland shirt, which was during like probably about the end of the last recession where people were doing staycations. So we came up with a vacation in Cleveland design, and there was it was a Edgewater beach scene. There was a little rat kind of inserted there somewhere, and instead of a seagull, we used a buzzard. But it was basically a vintage beach shirt that you would find, at Myrtle Beach or anywhere in Florida in a gift shop. But there were like little kind of changes in there that we added just to have that campy humor.
Maybe catch us up to the present. So if we've gotten as far as the development of the East Fourth location, what does the company look like now, and how are you thinking about expansion, the different opportunities?
Well, yeah, we opened up the East Fourth store in 2011. That was the time where everyone on the media and everyone was saying like, "Oh, downtown's going to die because LeBron has left,"
Right.
and everyone on East Fourth Street took that personally, and we decided to thrive instead of die. So, I think that's when the Renaissance really took hold of downtown, and we decided that we're going to be cool and we're going to be a place to come hang out and come to visit. So, our store kind of grew and took off. And what we actually saw a dip in our online sales when we opened our downtown store. And we saw people who live in like Chicago, New York, or expats all over the country or the world were waiting to not order their shirts, but to come home when they visit to buy their shirts. So we actually saw an increase of in-store sales, which was very awesome and heartwarming to see. And from there, our staff grew. We got offers to open new stores. Again, never seeking out anything, which has been kind of key for us. We've always been invited or asked, like, "Hey, how would you like to open a store here?" So we opened a store in University Circle, and then we always called it Summer in the Suburbs, where we had a cart at Crocker Park, which turned into a miniature shop, which we still have today. And then we've moved on to open stores in Shaker Heights at Van Aken District. And we've actually gone to Akron at Summit Mall. So at the height of our business, pre-COVID, we had almost 55 employees and, good standing. Now we're about 25 to 30. More, the pandemic kind of made us rethink our business, and we kind of have drawn back on how we operate just to be more leaner and meaner. But, we're looking to grow again internally as we come out of this.
Yeah. What have been some of the kind of lessons learned and how you're, perhaps thinking about what the future looks like?
Right now, there's a lot going on. A lot has changed over the past 2.5 years. So costs of supply cost and all of that, and supply issues that have caused some issues here and there. But overall, we're in a good position we're just focused on being efficient in our business. Learning. I went to art school, so I didn't go to business school. So we're learning a lot how to run the business more efficiently and not just be, "Hey, let's put out a cool T-shirt." Kind of thing. It's become more than that. And getting married, having 2 kids during this whole business has put a different perspective on things. So it's more than cool T-shirts. It's about creating good livelihoods, not only for myself, my wife, and my family, but to the greater Cleveland clothing family that we have. So we have 2 employees that just celebrated 10 years with us. They started as store associates, and now they've been working in the home office for the past 5 years as our human resources and purchasing director. So that's a huge milestone that I never thought I'd be at. So when you look back at 2008, I'm like, I'm the boss, and it's a weird position sometimes.
No, that's incredible. How is the I guess the entrepreneurial journey for yourself, having your background in something, pretty unrelated, perhaps to the space that you're in as an operator, as a leader of the organization, as building the company.
Right. I mean, to start out, it was frankly pretty easy. We had our, because I mean, we were something cool and new, and a lot of things just took off for us. So that was the easy part. I think 2020 was the challenge, and the years after that have become the challenge, where I've had to grow as a business owner and a person and as a leader, to navigate those waters to make sure that we're all going to be okay, or we are all okay, and we get through and survive, which we did, and we're very proud that we came out in a very, very good, fortunate position.
Yeah, no, I am as excited. I had just picked up a shirt with my buddy before we went to a Guardians game, and it's just it's nice to have.
Yeah.
A few other things I just want to kind of ask about and get your perspective on. It's kind of more meta as topics, but you mentioned kind of just the mentality of Cleveland, even specifically East Fourth. This fear, of LeBron leaving. How are we going to make it? And just kind of doubling down on the whole like Cleveland pride kind of message. What have you observed change or not changed, but just what have your observations been of like that self-perception over the last decade or so?
I mean, it's just like the downtown landscape just changing, like just the construction of apartments and buildings and all of that. Like it presents like a source of pride. Like we're in a resurgence, and Cleveland is always been cool, but it couldn't be cooler. It's a very, very proud town. The people are what makes it the best. I always remember the newspaper headline after the RNC in 2016, when the line was like, "We expected a riot and got a neighborhood party," or something like that. And I'm paraphrasing. I totally ruined what that said. A block party. We expected a riot and got a block party, and that was just the downtown, residents and the people of Cleveland showing up, and this is our town. And like any event that comes to town, everyone is expecting, like, not expecting to receive what they get, and they're expecting dark and dreary and rusty town, and they get something totally different. I think one of the things out of the NFL draft was like, hey, they have a beach. So that went into one of our summer that year's vacation in Cleveland design, which was more of like a motel-esque design, like a neon, like blinking sign, and it said, TV available, or cable TV, and we have a beach.
Yeah.
So I think it's those kind of things where like what people outsiders say, and we can actually like take it with a grain of salt and have some fun with it. Yeah. So I think, just the people is what makes the city the best. And that's what we love about it.
What have been some of your favorite designs over the years?
Just coming up with I'm a humor tea kind of guy. So just coming up with like funny things, whether, it's the Bernie River Surf Club, inventing a surfing club that then a year later finding out there's actual surfers on Lake Erie. Doing the vacation in Cleveland shirts. The shirt that blew up the most was, well, as far as social media, growing up with social media with this brand has been really fun. And, going on Instagram and having our first thing that ever had 1,000 likes was the "I Like Cleveland Before It Was Cool" t-shirt. And I designed it, and we didn't know how it was going to be responded to. And it got 1,000 likes in an hour. And we were like, holy crap. We better print more of these. So, those things are, just coming up with just funny and fun and interesting things to do, like that people can get a kick out of, but also, doing some philanthropy as well, like working with the food bank during the pandemic, those things also. And, the other things that we do that really impact the community, it's kind of we have both things that what we try to do and have fun and do good.
Yeah, having fun and doing good. Can't ask for much more in the process. Well, so I think we've covered a lot of different topics here. I'd love to, as you reflect on the journey and process of building Cleveland Company over the last few years, are there parts that we haven't really touched on yet that you think are important as part of the journey, or just anything you would want to kind of share?
I mean, I think our community engagement and like community give back that we started. Like, we've always tried to engage the community as much as possible, and then once we got in a position of being like, hey, we should really do something to impact our local communities. Like 2017 maybe we started. It's we give, and we started for each hoodie, knit hat, and pair of socks we sold that Christmas season, we would donate a pair, and the donations went to local organizations that that work with the unsheltered and have programs whether they clothe them or give them shelter and food and stuff. So that was something very important to us, and we've tried to continue that each year since. And so we hope to do that again this year, as well as work with other organizations such as the food bank. And then, beyond that, working with landmark organizations like the Cleveland Public Library, the Cleveland Orchestra, the National Park. We even worked with the Metro Parks a few years back. And each, when we partner with them, we either choose, one of their, what's the best word?
One of their initiatives,
a program within the organization, and we try to benefit. So we've been growing that over, this year, that we've been working with a few organizations that we haven't finished the designs yet, but they'll be coming out soon throughout the fall and winter, and we can't wait to launch those. We just like to give back and help out the community.
I mean, I imagine there's kind of like an endless opportunity for you to do these kind of collabs with other local organizations to create just kind of like really cool designs around what they're doing, and just kind of collaborate on that stuff.
Yeah, it's like some of them are just like they're unexpected sometimes, and like it's very cool to see the response from the community. We went into like the Cleveland Public Library, we did their 150th anniversary design, and I wasn't sure how it would be received. And when we launched it, like sold out in like less than a day. I was like, all right. Miss
Cleveland Public Library. Yeah.
we gotta turn that back on. We gotta figure this out. But yeah, like how the community comes out and supports different things, different landmark organizations in the community is awesome. And that's again getting back to the people of Cleveland. That's who we are, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep in the topic here on Cleveland. I'll ask you a question that we ask everyone on the show, which is not necessarily for your favorite thing in Cleveland, but for, hidden gems, something that other folks may not know about. And yeah, I feel like it's pretty in line with kind of how you think about Cleveland anyway, just kind of championing the things that, are awesome about Cleveland. But I'll ask you this one.
As far as hidden gems, are you looking for like restaurants or just any like little hidden pocket and secret?
Yeah. It could be anything,
Could be anything.
Historically, people have mentioned, particular parts of the Metro Park,
Right.
given restaurant. The Cleveland Public Library is a hidden gem in and of itself.
Yes, and that's where I was like thinking. So like the third floor of the Cleveland Public Library, where the art books are, is a place where I used to go work.
Oh yeah.
Free Wi-Fi, and I feel when I worked downtown, like I needed an office, and that's where I would go, and I'd be amongst the art books, and felt like I was in college again. And just working on designs up there was pretty fun. Other than that, I think one of the hidden gems is that we have a beach
And not only that, but people are surfing on it.
And people can surf, and yeah, it is a hidden gem. And the transformation that it's had over the past, I don't know how many years, has been awesome. And it's crowded, and it's a good thing.
It absolutely is a good thing. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time and for sharing the story of Cleveland Clothing Company. I think again, it's just a staple, and it's fun to learn how it came to be.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being on here.
Awesome. If folks had anything they wanted to follow up with you about, what would be the best way for them to connect, Cleveland Clothing or otherwise?
You can go to cleclothingco.com. You can contact us there or on our social medias at CLE Clothing Co. Don't forget the CO at the end.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much. This was awesome.
Awesome.
That's all for this week. Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's show. So if you have any feedback, please send over an email to jeffrey@layoftheland.fm or find us on Twitter at podlayoftheland or at sternjefe, JEFE. If you or someone you know would make a good guest for our show, please reach out as well and let us know. And if you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes or on your preferred podcast player. Your support goes a long way to help us spread the word and continue to bring the Cleveland founders and builders we love having on the show. We'll be back here next week at the same time to map more of the land. The Lay of the Land podcast was developed in collaboration with the Up Company LLC. At the time of this recording, unless otherwise indicated, we do not own equity or other financial interests in the company which appear on this show. All opinions expressed by podcast participants are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of any entity which employs us. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.